mistake. They kind of go underground, pop up again in Germany and or German states, I should say. They're found in Bohemia and Moravia historically. But theologically, to my understanding, they're a lot like Lutherans,
Okay.
but they predate Lutherans.
Okay.
So they're kind of the first
no, I never
Protestant
heard
group.
of Moravian.
Yeah, it's a small denomination that exists today, especially in this area and up in
still exists
Pennsylvania.
today?
They do,
Oh,
yeah.
right, fine.
Actually, the largest group of Moravians is in Tanzania, which
No,
with the largest population.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of Welsh people in some funny places around the world too.
right. If you're in the area for a
Argentina,
little,
for
if y'all are like visiting in the area for a little while, Old Salem, that's in Winston-Salem, is a living history museum that focuses on Moravian life in the 18th and 19th centuries.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I mentioned that construction of the fort would begin in December of 1755, be completed by October of 1756. We know about this because of a letter that's sent to the North Carolina General Assembly that details, the dimensions of it, the fact that there are two flankers on either side. You'll notice as well that the boards, for lack of a better word, start out very, very thick. They get thinner as you go up towards the top. So they start at 16 by 16. By the time you get up to the top, more like 6 inches. 16 by 6. Unfortunately, there was a drawing to go along with this letter. Unfortunately, that drawing is lost. We don't have it anymore for whatever reason. But archaeology also tells us where the fort would be. Archaeological work started in 1967. They found some remnants of the fort itself, as well as a protective ditch. And there was some evidence of a stockade wall as well. So there are 3 stories to the fort. Theoretically, along each, you can see the loopholes that are here. These are windows. 100 muskets can be fired out of each floor, totaling 300 muskets. We'll be able to go to the first and second floors today. The third floor is not open to the public just for safety reasons. But everything in here is a replica. So you're welcome to touch just about everything in there, with the exception of edged weapons, so like tools, knives, weapons, that sort of thing. And then any of the firearms that we have in here, we'll ask that you please don't touch. Anything else you're welcome to pick up, try on, ask questions. Make sure that I'm heading. All right, so we'll head on in. And as you walk in, just go ahead to that room on your left. Just head in and then go to your left, and I'll join you in there in a second. So the room that you're stepping into right now is a storeroom. So this is the working room for the fort, as well as where we're going to store all of our supplies. So 50 men, of course, are going to need a lot of supplies, a lot of food, a lot of rations, lots of things like that. I'll give you a chance to look around in a bit. While you're looking around, if you go into that flanker, they're supplied by a spring that's about 300 miles this direction, which would be to the south. But yeah, take a look around. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about materials here. Again, everything's a reproduction. So you're welcome to pick stuff up. And then when you're finished, we'll continue on to the barracks rooms. Yeah, so these little holes that you see here, you could fire muskets out of, but then as we go upstairs to one of the other flankers, you'll see larger holes. Oh, you could stick it like in, no problem.
like a little stools and all those stuff over there. Like a little stool to stand the fire out, isn't it? It's only people relax off that kind of thing, isn't it? So you can't put people around before.
No, I thought.
No, it's only you that's a fiddler. Yes, yeah, I think these are quite tall, isn't it?
You can fire muskets out of them.
Yeah, I get here, but you can't really, not really, because you come from here, wouldn't you? So that's the thing, you might
Potentially, if you had someone that was especially short.
Well, yeah, but that one, that's pretty tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really heavy, isn't it? Yeah, these.
Absolutely. Those are cut from wool rock cloth.
Yeah, they feel like it will.
Yeah, and you'll see people wearing wool all
Like
times of the year,
Oh, yeah?
even in the summer.
Why?
If you're in the, I'll say that these are provincial troops, I should have mentioned that earlier, so they're kind of in between a militia and like the British Army.
Yeah.
They're not quite career soldiers like the British Army, but they're, being.
Somebody have to have a good sight to shoot you for.
Oh, yeah.
That's what, again.
You'll see how they kind of narrow on their way out, and that's part of that.
Yeah, I think they did.
It's a lot easier to fire out than to be fired upon. Right, a lot of times you'll see things, you know, or especially if you're like on ships. Or,
Yeah. That's at least something down there, you know, you feel, it's quite tall.
Yeah, it's like 6.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, you feel, I think that will
Well, this for a lake.
You'll get your food, or like how we'll store dry goods and non-perishables and things like that. And they're labeled. You could store like wine and things like that in them, certainly.
These are
I don't know if that's what they did.
bigger
Yeah.
gunshot or something.
They stored up. What would this thing be?
So that's a bellows for a blacksmith shop. It's like a big version of the, right.
Who's gonna do that?
So a lot of times it'll be attached to,
You feel it, like.
lever systems so that you're not having to pump it by hand.
Yeah.
It's attached to a lever, you pull on that lever, and then the, yeah, so those are cartridges that you, use to fire, so they look like this. You have your musket ball down the bottom, and then the powder on top, you open with your teeth. Pour a little bit in your pan, the rest down the barrel, and then invert it and drop the ball down. Kind of pack that all down with your ramrod, and then fire it. So all of the muskets and things like that at this time are going to be flintlock.
So they had them pre-made.
You could.
Yeah.
We've got a variety of like types of shot that you could use. The cannons that are up above that we'll see upstairs, those fire half-pound shots. So the what that means is that the ball that comes out of them are half-pound.
Just,
Well, back then it was all English anyway.
Right.
Scottish.
no, when we didn't count, we were like, we were just cannon fodder, so all the officers
It's a
would
knife.
be
They
English.
made a knife out
Right.
of that.
Right.
But the whole
I don't
army
know what it
would
fit
be
in.
English, there'd be all sorts of
Right.
Scottish and Irish and everybody.
What does knife fit in? It's a
I'm sorry?
knife. It's made into a knife.
Now that one I am not sure about, to be honest with you.
I love them fireplaces.
Oh yes.
Oh, this is the bunks, huh?
That's right. So these are soldiers' barracks. So this is where the soldiers are going to be eating and sleeping. In the British military at the time, a mess consists of 6 soldiers who would then be issued their rations kind of in bulk. Then they do what they need to do with them. They do the cooking and all of that. But you'll notice that there are only 6 beds in here, and that's because, or I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. This is for 2 messes. This room is for 2 messes, but you'll notice that there are only 6 beds. And that's because they're sleeping 2 to a bed. So it'll house 12 soldiers. We don't have quite the same ideas about, personal space, privacy, at least not in the military at the time. So you hope that someone in your mess knows how to cook, because otherwise you're going to kind of just be making it into a soup. Perhaps not quite as savory.
That's quite a big bed though for two to a bed. I think that's not so
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
I expected worse than that.
Right, right, of course.
Do they take turns being on duty too?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
But
like a
I,
hot bed, and then you hop in and out. then,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
right, you'll have different bolts that are on duty from time to time. I don't know how much that affects like your sleeping arrangements,
Yeah, that would make sense.
but certainly. You're welcome to try out the mattresses if you'd like. They're stuffed with straw. When you get into the officers' quarters, which we'll see in a bit, you'll see some that are stuffed with fancier things like wool roving or even feathers sometimes.
Mm.
But be issued a wool blanket.
Yeah, so it's still like the stoppers as cold coming in.
Yeah,
And being
Yeah.
stopped, like you said, someone comes and shoots it in.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Keeps that light out, the cold out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Don't speak that.
Right. So common ration for the time per man per day is going to be about a pound of flour or bread, three-quarters of a pound of salted meat or a pound of fresh, a few ounces of rice or beans, or something dried. Yeah, 4 ounces of liquor.
Oh, you
4 ounces of liquor.
Right. You know, it's important. You gotta.
No, I'd be popular. I read that right.
Right,
I'm gonna drink
right.
it. I'd rather have that bread.
Agreed.
I'd be doing a deal. That's quite a lot. Yeah, that's good ration.
Yeah. They can also buy, common soldiers at the time are probably not going to have as much cash to play around with to do this, but you can also buy from local farmers as you need and you're able to.
That's being bought.
Right. A soldier at the time, North Carolina provincial troops at the time are issued what we call a stand of arms, which includes a musket with a bayonet, a sword, which a lot of times is going to be a naval cutlass, and a cartridge box as well. So I may have mentioned this early, flintlock materials. And to my understanding, often Dutch manufactured, at this time at least, for provincial soldiers.
There's lots of craft around, isn't there? If you have to march in a long way.
Absolutely.
With those heavy coats in it and whatever. And
Got a lot
then
to
them as
take
well.
with you. What questions can I answer?
Those bags on the belts were for the musket balls, were they?
Yeah, so that's going to be where your cartridges and all of your shots.
Yeah.
All these chestnut logs.
So these were made, the reconstructed fort was made with white oak. Donated, some of it was donated by like local landowners. But we know that the original fort was constructed of oak of some sort. It doesn't say in the records what kind of oak, but white oak is strong and it works well here, so. All right, well, if everyone's ready, we'll go out the store and head up the stairs. Quarters. So as you're coming up, you may notice quite a difference from the from your soldiers' barracks. So, pick this up off the floor. It's just supposed to be here. You'll see things like writing desks. Officers are expected to be literate. You're also going to see just nicer furnishings. So officers are also going to draw rations, but they often have the capability to purchase additional items. So things that maybe taste a little bit better, nicer ingredients, that sort of thing.
But they have someone cooking for them.
Yes, that's a good point. They'll have someone cooking for them. A lot of times that'll be a soldier servant. So another soldier that's that's acting kind
Like a
of as
Batman
their
or whatever.
servant. Right. There are also quite a few fewer beds. That I don't like that wording, but there are not as many beds up here. There'll be 3 officers as well as a surgeon. So you'll have your captain, your lieutenant, your ensign, and then a surgeon. A surgeon's not quite an officer, but he's educated. He's kind of considered to be of the same. You know, he's going to be with the officers, not with the regular enlisted men. Lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. The officers are also going to have the responsibility to recruit soldiers, to maintain their health and payment, and to oversee training. So with, you know, this relative luxury comes a lot of responsibility as well. But keep in mind too that there's often a class difference. So your officers are a lot of times coming from a higher class to begin, like a higher social class to begin with, which means that they're used to being quote unquote in authority in their social circles. So feel free to take a look around. Let me know if you have any questions about anything. As you look around at the clothes, you'll notice that they're, you know, made with finer materials, trimmed with finer materials than what we saw down below.
And then when you see on the surgeon, I think of like William Holden. What's that? One day, he doesn't matter, but he was a surgeon, but he wasn't an officer. I think it was.
Yeah.
He was, do you remember he was a
Oh,
surgeon?
yes, with John.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
The horse one.
Yeah, yeah. He wasn't, but he wasn't, you're right.
Right, kind of the same circle. I
And he was
suppose, but
educated,
not-
like you're saying,
right.
but he wasn't considered an officer. But
Right.
He was a surgeon.
They probably got more than 4 ounces of booze.
if they purchased it, I can imagine.
I don't remember the date.
He's a sorry.
Oh, that's the mattress,
Yeah.
And you'll notice that these beds over this bed have been maybe like the colonel's
Yeah.
bed, or I'm sorry, captain's bed. It's a rope bed,
Oh,
so it can be tightened.
right. So it
Those
gives
have
a bit
wooden
more,
slats.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
These are wooden slats as opposed to what you get nowadays, which is just
I would be
thin.
better with that,
Right.
to be
Yeah.
honest. I don't think for wooden beds, I forever felt breaking them. I never find them strong enough.
I know.
I don't like a wooden bed.
And it was a wooden bed frame with that, like with slats and things like that, and I was forever waking up in the middle of the night because I rolled over too hard.
Yeah, they move together. Give me a proper divan all day long.
Right.
I can't do it. They look lovely, but I don't
Yeah,
sleep enough.
yeah.
You think you drop people? Is it like-
Quite a bit more comfortable. They're also sleeping alone. They're not having to share bed space
Yeah.
with
That's
someone
definitely
else.
nice, you're right, yeah, that's nice.
You'll notice like this coat over here doesn't feel as scratchy as some of them downstairs might have. Still wool, but a finer wool. Right. Kind of the equivalent of like
Oh, like a
hoodie.
smoking room.
Yeah. And this is probably one of the more expensive items historically that would be here, because you've got that printed cloth. Now, whether it comes from India itself, or whether it's an imitation of a cloth that would come from India,
Oh, yes, printed rock.
sort of thing. For the guys that are down below, probably a bucket at night, and then during the day, you'd probably be outside. Yeah.
I don't, just be a little bit though, sorry.
Right, no, that's okay. That's one of the most common,
Oh,
that's a common question to be
Yeah,
asked.
We've been spoiled over the years.
Yeah,
That sounds sweet,
yeah.
lovely.
Right. Other questions I can answer? No.
What I'm saying is, if you're Canadian and you get called American, or
Uh-huh.
American get called
Exactly.
Canadian, that's the way to understand
That's
the
right,
difference.
right,
Or Australian get called New Zealand, is
Right.
massive difference. And to us, it's a massive difference.
right. That's a big difference.
Yeah. Sounds petty to everyone else, but.
No. Or like, you know, you've got North and South Carolina. If you say you're from the Carolinas, it's important.
Well,
And people are,
No, the thing is, when we were in, the English invited us once about right?
Yeah.
And then we wouldn't have to speak Welsh, you wouldn't have to
Right.
have education, there's
Right.
loads of things you couldn't do,
right.
so we're kind of still there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, because they're all it's just 25 years, I'm like, lucky, you know. My sister, we were my sister still lives in, she's more than that. And she
Yeah.
was saying, we have a Christmas day, like, 23, 24.
Yeah,
Oh, great. It never reached above zero. The whole month.
No.
11 inches of snow in one day.
Right, right. And everything shuts down.
Yeah, but
I mean,
nothing clear, that's the thing,
Yeah.
it's staying like it, isn't it?
yeah.
So it's really weird, it's never green.
But there's absolutely no rush, folks. Whenever everyone is ready, we'll
And warm ring and cold ring.
much prefer one.
That's okay. I'm done with all, to be honest.
Right.
So sorry, what is this? Oh, that's more barracks, is it?
So this will be this is a room that's currently closed off just because it has our modern things in it. But no, that's
No,
okay.
But it would, what would you be?
Stick out, that's all.
This is just another about some of the alliances with indigenous people here, as well as kind of an introduction to the Anglo-Cherokee War, which proves very important to this area because that's the only time that Fort Dobbs is actually attacked. So alliances with the Cherokee, well, let me back up a little bit. When we say the French and Indian War, sometimes it's a little bit dubious as to who is on which side. So you've got native groups that are allied with the French, you've got native groups that are allied with the British. Cherokee and the Catawba are largely allied with the British, whereas the Shawnee and other Algonquin-speaking groups are going to be allied with the French.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that Fort Dobbs, or one of the big reasons I should say, that Fort Dobbs is even constructed is because of reported attacks by the Shawnee on European settlers. But alliances with the Cherokee become strained because of settlers encroaching on Cherokee hunting grounds. This is particularly in the Carolinas and Virginia, and then in North Georgia as well. And then in addition to that, there are several murders of the Cherokee in 1758 and into 1759. So this kind of leads to what becomes known as the Anglo-Cherokee War. Virginia, a group of militia mostly murdered as many as 40 Cherokee, knowing that they were allies. So within the group, one guy spoke up, said, "Hey, we shouldn't kill these people, these are our allies," and then he was sent away and the rest of the group was sworn to secrecy. They didn't hear him say that, and then they murdered those Cherokee. The Cherokee sought justice within the justice system, within the judicial system, especially via the South Carolina government, but they were denied justice for the murders. And then there were some additional murders that happened in South Carolina. So in spring of 1759, the Cherokee retaliate. They decide that they're going to seek blood vengeance, so essentially a life for a life. This could take the form of, killing someone, also scalping someone could count as that, even if they didn't die from those injuries. So about 40 people in North Carolina are killed or captured, and as a result of that, then colonists are fired up. They're seeking justice for that. I do want to take you into this flanker here a bit to talk about the one attack on Fort Dobbs, just because it's a little bit easier to see. So this is our southwest flanker. You can see a lot in many directions. Yeah, it's a good spot to kind of see. You can see like behind you, you can see in front of you, all of that. It's just an area off the side, off the like main part of the fort.
Yeah.
That's good for those purposes.
Okay.
So out this window is facing south. And that's important to know because on the night of February 27th, 1760, okay, so let me actually back up a little bit and say that at this point, I mentioned earlier that there had been 50 provincial soldiers here at Fort Dobbs. By 1760, that had been reduced to 30. So a lot of those men had gone on to the Forbes campaign, which was one last attempt to capture Fort Duquesne, which is again up near Pittsburgh. The numbers here were reduced to something like 30. But then in 1760, on that night, Waddell, who was the one who was commanding this fort, they all started noticing that the dogs were barking. They didn't know why. Waddell goes out in a party of 10 to investigate, and they find that the Cherokee have come to try and launch a surprise attack on the fort. Waddell says, "Don't fire without command," so the soldiers don't fire until they're within 25 feet of the Cherokee. So for reference, that's about the distance from this window to that window. So it's fairly point blank. And they're using buck and ball. So what that means is they're using a musket ball as well as 7 pieces of buckshot. So it's quite a big shot as well. But unbeknownst to him, there's also a party coming from the west. But because they've lost the element of surprise, they don't really have an advantage anymore. So the battle lasts all of 20 minutes. It's the only time that the fort's attacked. And at the end of it, there's one confirmed Cherokee death on site, though some of the readings say that there may have been more like 10 or 12. There's one confirmed Cherokee death on site. They leave his body here, he's buried on site. In an unknown location, we don't know where that would have been these days. As far as settlers and soldiers go, there are 2 wounded North Carolina men, and one of those dies about a month after from his injuries. And it's reported as well that one boy dies. Now this may be like a young teenager, we don't know the exact age of him. They're buried on site as well. I believe there's like a fenced off, not quite, like a low sectioned off area out this direction that it's kind of believed to be them as well. The Anglo-Cherokee War ends in 1761, and then the French and Indian War itself will end in 1763. So the Anglo-Cherokee War takes place in the middle of the French and Indian War. Fort Dobbs is deemed like unnecessary, and it closes in 1764, and it's in ruins by 1766. It does not exist by the time of the American Revolution. So oral history indicates that a lot of the fort was dismantled by the local community, and that they may have even built a schoolhouse from the timbers that were here. Now that couldn't really be confirmed because that schoolhouse was condemned by 1900, torn down. And by the 1820s, the site was farmland. So a farmer purchased the land, he took basically all of the stuff that was left over, raked it into a pile and buried it because it was not of use to him, he needed the land to farm. Which is actually kind of helpful when it comes to archaeology because as of now, something like 6,000 artifacts have been found, which is helpful. But the Daughters of the American Revolution, the DAR, started preserving the site in 1909, so they purchased some of the land. In 1909, including the log cabin that you see out back there, that's actually assembled from several different log cabins that are contemporary to the 1830s. From the area, so it's kind of a conglomeration of several different buildings. Archaeology will start here in 1967, and then the site itself will open in 1976, of course the year of the bicentennial. We talked a little bit about archaeology. Archaeology would discover the well and the cellar and then the perimeter ditch that I talked a little bit about outside. And then, like I mentioned, the 6,000 artifacts that have been recovered as well. I will point out a couple of things here. Related more so to the Anglo-Cherokee War and the attack on the fort than to the more contemporary history of it, but this is one of our swivel guns. You can see that there's another one there. This is the one that actually fires. This is where you'd fire. So feel free to take a look around. Otherwise, this is the end of our tour, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has. But once everyone's finished looking around, we'll head downstairs and back outside. Thank you. Let me see how I'm doing on time. Okay. So by this time, the Cherokee and other native groups in the area, they're going to have firearms, but not artillery. So that'll make a difference. They're not using bows and arrows as a method of, war weapon. Don't have artillery.
They just had like axes and stuff like that.
Like axes and then firearms as well.
Oh, right. They did have buttons. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay.
We're down by this one.
Oh, that's okay. I'm throwing a lot at you and I talk fast, so.
I talk because anyone else I know, so it's fine.
So how close would the nearest settlers be? So there'd be a farm I take it's what, 20 miles away, or?
Yeah, so there were
Because I was wondering if there was sort of like Indian activity, would they count you as a refuge?
Yes, exactly. That's a good question.
It knocked somebody out.
Yeah. I will check on that as well.
What they do about livestock? Do they keep the livestock in here? Or do they have a pen and stuff?
So that would be more so the local farmers that are around. If they need fresh meat, then they'll buy.
Oh, they
Like,
didn't keep their own stuff.
not to my understanding. That it's not uncommon for them to have gardens in the town,
Okay.
but livestock they would be purchasing from farmers. I want to maybe like a Cherokee weapon of war. Said someone earlier today that, you know, being asked questions and giving answers to in ways that you might not. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, you don't know until you get asked about it.
It makes sense now, it's like a club chicken. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they were, maybe they just changed their own to,
Yeah.
but now, like, you know.
Right. We don't know the exact setup just because we don't have
Yeah.
the drawing of it.
Michael
So
Jackson's
it's
at
possible that that things could be a little bit switched around.
Yeah, I think so, they might not want to walk over up there, so you might get hot, more hot buns up there.
I suppose on the side.
And this concludes our tour of Fort Dobbs, North Carolina. If you guys like this video, would you give it a thumbs up? We'll see you next time.